Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Reese Ramblings. I'm Shauna, the girl who likes to ramble. But thank you for joining me for another episode. If this is your first time listening to my podcast, welcome. I am a Jamaican living in China. I like to talk, to read, and ramble. So I talk about anything related to my life or anything that I feel like talking about, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode. So, my voice sounds cheery and upbeat, but it's fake, y'all. I don't feel cheery. I don't feel update. I don't feel upbeat, not update. Um, yeah, it's been a pretty rough couple of weeks, to be honest. I mean, even now as I'm speaking, I sound a bit nasal because I've got a blocked nose. A couple weeks ago in my other episode, I talked about like the weather changing, and yeah, winter brings with it the cold and the flu. So I hope you guys are being healthy and, just keeping safe and taking your vitamins and stuff and wearing enough clothes. Like, yeah. Um, but for me, I have issues. So the least amount of thing or the least thing that happens, then it affects me. But anyway, so it's been rough these past couple of weeks. I've had to say rest in peace to a lot of people. I've had to be sending my condolences to friends who have lost people. There have been diagnoses of cancer and of other issues. I know people who have surgery, who have undergone surgery. I know people who yeah, just who are hurting. I feel like it's like a common theme across the world. But on the other hand, I also know people who welcomed their baby into this earth. And I think that is such a blessing. I know people who have graduated or who have opened or started a new business. So, that's life. It's like always a paradox. Like literally, I don't know, balance, yin and yang, good and evil, black and white. Like something has to mix or, just balance it all out. But I wanted to talk about scattering roses. There's this popular song and this saying like, don't scatter roses after I'm gone. And I'd always grow up and hear my mom saying it and just people saying it. And um, I mean, I know the meaning of it, and I also believe, like, okay, don't scatter roses after I'm gone. But then I realized that sometimes I'm also a bit guilty of this. And let's just be honest with each other. I mean, my podcast is centered around me being authentic, and um, yeah, I'm just gonna be honest. So I am that person sometimes who scatter roses after someone has gone or after the time has passed, not because I don't acknowledge that that person deserves the flowers, but because sometimes I am so isolated or so far removed or just stuck in my head or being anxious and not reaching out and just a myriad of reasons, but I don't want to be that person anymore. And if you're listening and if you're that person, then let's try to make the change together. Like it's like, give me my flowers now. Give that person their flowers now. Tell them how much they matter. Tell them how important they are. Like tell them how special they are. Tell them that you cannot imagine this world without them. Tell them that they're enough. Tell them that you need them to be here. Like, just big them up. Like just do that because life is hard and kind words go a really far way. But how many of us intentionally tries to be kind? I mean, like decide that, okay, I'm gonna smile at people today. And I mean, it probably sounds silly, guys, and I'm one to talk because I walk around with a frown on my face, except when I get in my moods where I'm walking and singing. And I do that a lot in China, partly because they can understand me, so I can just sing. Plus, you can do whatever you want in China in that regard. Like, no one looks at you if you start belting out the lyrics to some Whitney Houston or something. Like, no one looks at you strange because it's the norm here. But like, so I don't walk around with a smile on my face. I don't look approachable. I'm told quite often that I look quite mad at the world and intimidating. But sometimes I get it into my head that, hey, let me try to look softer or nicer. Nicer is the better word. Nicer. And let's try to do that. I mean, I will smile with people. I will. Don't get me wrong. I'm not rude in that regard. So I will smile, and as soon as like we start getting to talk, then you notice, oh, this girl is really nice. But before that, I just look like I'm gonna eat you up. Okay, not eat you up, but like, I don't look like the person you want to talk to. Um, so yeah, like just try to be kind, like a smile or a compliment. You look good today. I like your shoes. I like your hair. Holding the door open for someone, paying for someone's meal, like you see someone in the line at a supermarket and they're struggling to find their purse. I mean, if it's just a one drink, like you can pay for it if you can afford it. That's like, but just something to put a smile on that person's face. To You have no idea how much it would make their day or their week or their month. Like, you never know. um so yeah, I mean, you know what, on the other hand too, like there's so many things being posted on social media, or when someone posts about something bad, like our first thing, or the first thing that we say to that person is, I'll pray for you, or you send these wishes. But how many of us actually do pray for that person? Like when you're going to bed at night, do you think, oh, I told Shauna I'll pray for her, let me pray for her? No. Yeah, some of you might, or you may, but how about we do it in the moment? So I'm challenging you. The next time you write, I'll pray for you, pray in the minute. Like at that moment when you say, I'm praying for you, just do it right then and there. 10 seconds, 15 seconds, it doesn't have to be long. But let's try to be more intentional with the words that we say and with our action, and let them have meaning and they're not just meaningless. You know what I mean? It's easy to share platitudes and promises with no real action, but can we try to step away from that for a second? Like, yeah, I mean, like the platitudes, they're fun. Not fun, maybe not the right word. They're okay to read, but what difference do they make? So, I mean, they make you feel better. Like, they absolve your conscience, or, okay, I did something, but actually do something. Yeah. So, another thing that made these past couple of weeks hard was that I lost a close family member a couple weeks ago, and it's been rough. Like, what's even worse is that we hadn't spoken on the phone since 2020. I mean, we exchanged words at that time. What happened? I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like everything that I say, even as I challenge you guys, I'm also challenging myself because I'm not perfect, far from it, but I try to be good, or I try to walk, where I should walk. But yeah, so in 2020 we exchanged words and I felt disrespected, and I called her out on it, and like she responded, and I felt like okay, like like I always talk about boundaries and family, and I felt like, okay, well, this is not serving me. I don't need to accept this. And yeah, so I didn't. And over time, we got back to, like, Facebook messages and liking pictures or stuff. But was that really enough? Like, could I have done more? And it got me thinking, like, when I found out that she died, I was really heartbroken. I still am. And I was in the taxi on the way to a dinner to celebrate with a friend who was actually leaving China. I had a bottle of sparkling wine with me. I was like, okay, so what am I supposed to do now? Like, I was crying in the taxi. Again, this is China. No one cares if you're crying. um, because everybody's minding their own business, which is also good. Um, and I was thinking, it got me thinking about my mom, and she's still grieving my dad. And I was like, this cousin was really close to her. Like, so I was feeling sad about the loss, but also worried about my mom, and then being so far away. And living abroad is fun, and it's an adventure, but it's so difficult when you're faced with situations like this, and it's like, how do I respond? Like, what can I do from being so far away? And, like, do I how do I react? It's really hard. Like, you try to call and check in, but then again it comes to the question, is it enough? And for me, like, as the years passed, I realized that I've become more and more isolated from family, from friends, because as you get more experiences, you realize how far removed you are from the old ones, and from the people. And it's like, you don't know what to share or how to share, because, like, how can they relate? And it's the same with them. Like, how can I relate to their experiences, because it's been so long. And so you isolate. Like, I mentioned this word a couple of times, because I do feel isolated sometimes, and it's self-inflicted most of the time. But yeah, so dealing with this grief, this loss, and being in isolation, self-inflicted isolation, it's been a lot, and I can lock away my feelings. I've been a pro at it since my dad died, but when I started working on myself, like, I realized that, like, I need to feel. And feeling is associated with vulnerability, and vulnerability is not a weakness, y'all. Like, for so many years I thought it was, but it's not. It really is our strength. It is, because if you can feel and acknowledge how you feel, and use those feelings not to negative not and not allow those feelings to negatively affect your life, then that therein is power. And once you harness that power, you really are unstoppable. So you're feeling what you're feeling, but you're not allowing it to dictate your life. And it's difficult to achieve, but it's not impossible to achieve. So today in this episode, I'm gonna tell y'all how I feel. I feel annoyed at myself for losing another person close to me, and yet not getting a chance to say goodbye. I'm ashamed of how sometimes um I let my ego get in the way of me being good, quote unquote. I'm I feel scared living abroad, and wondering what home will be like when I return. And with that comes the question of, is it all worth it? The sacrifice for more or for better, but at what cost? Like, how do you balance advancement and, how do I put it, people management? Yeah, like, how do you balance advancement and people management What if when you decide to buckle down, like focus on you, um, in the end it's all meaningless? What then? And these are just me thinking out loud and some of my feelings, and again they're just feelings, but they do have the power, and if I harness them in the right way, then I have that power, and I that is this is something I have to work through. I just wanted to share some of what has been floating around in my head. And for the past couple of weeks, like these thoughts, these feelings have been plaguing my mind. Yet I smile, I push through, I do what I have to do, like repression, suppression, but it leads to depression. And I think I've really been functionally depressed. Like, I'm still studying, I'm still working, I'm still meeting people, I'm still hanging out with my friends, I'm still doing what I have to do, I'm still showing up, but I'm just functioning. I'm just ticking off my to do list. I'm just doing what I have to do. But yeah, it's like not truly dealing with what I have to. And I have learned from past experience that this catches up to you. It does, which is why I'm acknowledging it, which is why right now I'm speaking on it so that it loses its power. Because if I don't acknowledge this, if I push through and say, oh, I'm fine, or there's nothing wrong with me, then I'm denying the truth. And like, I cannot do that. I have to acknowledge what it is. So, yeah, I'm I'm back now to allowing myself to feel and working through those feelings. I've got my tools, I've got the resources, through prayer, through exercise, through writing, through rambling, through talking. Um, so at the beginning when I said don't scatter roses, I'm talking to myself too. I'm not just like, talking to y'all. I mean, the world just feels different right now, and I don't know if people before our time, if they felt that the same way. I'm sure they probably did. Like, a lot of atrocities happened before 2020, before the us millennials came about. Yet there is, like, as I mentioned before, the dichotomy or the paradox in that the same way we are struggling, thankfully we also have access to resources, to get help for ourselves and for those around us, because hurt people do hurt people, and it's evident worldwide. There is so much hate, there is so much wickedness, there's so much violence and destruction, and it's like, to what end? Like, there's definitely a spiritual warfare, but it's also psychological. Like, what trauma have we not dealt with that allows us to react or respond to situations the way that we do? And how can we fix it? Acknowledgement and being self aware, emotional intelligence is one of the most important steps. They are some of the most important steps. Like, it's not enough to just be smart anymore and to have a high IQ and, pass the test or have the degrees, but you also need EQ. Like, how emotionally intelligent are you? How self aware are you? And how do you react to those around you? So, yeah, I'm challenging you guys to think about these words. Like, gossip travels faster than well wishes, and negativity spreads more than positivity. But can we try to change the narrative? Like, our words and our deeds, they do have the power to change the trajectory of someone's life. So, what will you choose? What will you choose? Thank you for listening to another episode of Reeves Ramblings. I'm Shauna. Remember to connect with me on Instagram at Shauna Reeves 18, and I'll see you guys another time.